Okay, so first off, thank you all for coming here. I just wanted to take a couple moments to thank you all especially for being here, considering the circumstances that are currently going on in the world with everything that's been going on in the last couple of months. We just wanted to recognize how the Berkeley community is standing together. I would highly encourage everyone watching to go on to news.berkeley.edu to check out our chancellor's message about standing together and how we can support each other in these very difficult times. But again, thank you all for coming, and we hope to make your visit a very enjoyable one. And with that, let's get started. So uh, let me just pull up the slides. Okay, so welcome to UC Berkeley. So the format for today is that we will be starting with a virtual panel, which is a 1-hour Q&A. So the way this works is that the chat is disabled on Zoom, but if you do have any questions, I would highly encourage you to go ahead and put those in the Q&A function on Zoom. So make sure you ask your questions in there. And if you need any more info, then please make sure to go ahead onto visit.berkeley.edu or send us an email at tour@berkeley.edu. So a little bit about myself. So my name is Albert. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm from San Francisco, California, so just right across the bay. And I'm a sophomore. My majors are computer science and cognitive science, and I'm also involved on campus as part of visitor and parents services back-end work.
Hi everybody, my name is Christy. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am originally from Seattle, Washington. This is my senior year, which is pretty crazy. I'm doing a double major in political economy and linguistics. Political economy is a unique major to Cal. There's one other school in the US that has this as an undergraduate program, but it's a combo of you do various political science, economic courses, and then also supplement that with things like history, legal studies, human geography. It's a really interdisciplinary program, which I really love. On campus, I play for our Women's Ultimate Frisbee Club team, which is a big part of my life, and I really enjoy that. I've also had a couple different research positions, both through our official research program, URAP, Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program, and also researching surrounding the celebration of 150 years of women being on the Berkeley campus, which is going on this year. I'm involved in a couple different academic clubs. SLUGS is the Linguistics Undergraduate Society, and then PISA is the Political Economy Student Association, where I am the curriculum chair this year. And then I've had a couple different internships as well during my time at Berkeley. So please ask me any questions related especially to these, and I have a lot of expertise.
Hi everyone, my name is Jimmy. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm originally from San Jose, California, but I'm currently broadcasting live from Berkeley. I'm a sophomore studying political science with a minor in public policy. And apart from my role as a campus ambassador, I'm also involved in the UC Rally Committee, which is our campus spirit group. I'm also involved in the Vietnamese Student Association and the Residence Hall Assembly, which is like the student government for the dorms.
Hello everyone, my name is Jade and I use the she, her, hers pronouns. I'm from Long Island, New York, to be specific, Great Neck. So I think in our panel today, I am the only one from the East Coast. So if anyone have questions about moving from East Coast to West Coast, I'm very happy to answer those for you. I am a junior and I spent the last 2 years at Cal studying psychology and economics. Other than my job as a campus ambassador and outside of my classes, just like Christy, I'm a part of our wonderful Women's Ultimate Frisbee team. We get to travel to many parts of California and play other schools. In freshman year, I was involved in psychology research through a student organization called ULab. I'm not doing research with them this semester, but I'm helping them doing some curriculum development. Other than that, I'm a part of an investigative journalism club known as the Business Review at Berkeley, or as we like to call ourselves, BRB. We like to write about the business-related topics that are relevant to us students here at Berkeley.
Hi y'all, my name's Kenzie. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm originally from San Francisco, California, but I have moved back to Berkeley for the fall semester. I'm going into my junior year. I'm majoring in molecular environmental biology out of our College of Natural Resources here at Berkeley. I'm also pursuing a minor in Cal Teach. or other known as science and math education. This minor, I really love the program because you really do hands-on. I've been teaching at various elementary and high schools around Berkeley, but also through this program, I'm able to get my teaching credential while getting my bachelor's degree. So it's pretty phenomenal. Also, I'm involved in Superb Comedy, which is a group on campus that puts on comedy shows. Last night we actually hosted Luke Knoll, an SNL cast member, and Josh Johnson, who writes for The Daily Show, had them on a Zoom call, so pretty cool. I'm also part of Cal Climbing, and I've done molecular and biological research and internships through Cal.
All right, so thank you all for introducing yourselves. So before we officially get started, there should be a poll popping up on your screen in just a couple seconds. This is more so we can just get a general sense of who is watching us today, and we can kind of more tailor our answers to better serve everyone watching today. Looks like we have a lot of high school seniors and a lot of juniors, a couple of transfer students in there. All right, pretty awesome. And yeah, all right, awesome. Okay, so for our first question of the day, let me just get that pulled up. Stop sharing my screen. Our first question of the day is, what exactly is the academic culture of Cal like? Kenzie, do you think you can start us off with that?
Yeah, of course. This is a question I really like to answer because I was really worried that Berkeley was going to be a very competitive environment, and that's not something I was really looking for in a college. But when I started here at Berkeley, and ever since, I've been pleasantly surprised to find that it isn't as competitive as a lot of people think. It is academically rigorous, as we are one of the #1 public universities. So my classes, I'm not going to say they're easy, but I've definitely learned a lot from them. What I will say is I actually think it's a very collaborative and welcoming academic culture where we're all just pushing each other to be better as students. Something that I love about Berkeley that I've discovered is that everyone's kind of on their own path. So for example, my major is actually the most popular major in my college, but within my major, you have to choose a concentration. There's a variety of classes you can take. So I know fellow molecular environmental biology students who aren't even taking any of the same classes that I am because we're just have such different interests. And do this, we're not like competing with one another. Instead, we're both like pursuing our passions in different ways. So everyone here is just pushing each other to get better because we see each other just pursuing our passions, and there's no need to like cut each other down in order to get there.
Awesome. Yeah, I highly agree with that statement about how the general academic culture is. You know, I think everyone here is just working together to help build each other up, and I think that's a great thing. Okay, so moving on to our second question. So could someone talk about what exactly was your freshman experience like? Do you have any recommendations for the best place to study or hang out, all those sorts of different things? Jimmy, do you think you can grab that one?
Yeah, I can answer that. So like I had said in my introduction, I am a sophomore this year. So I just came out of last semester, cut short. But just to give an insight of how my first semester went, I came in taking the minimum units, which was 13 units for my college, because I wanted to spend a lot of time transitioning to college. I saw some of my friends who had come in taking like, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 units. I noticed that they were burnt out right from the beginning. But for me, I decided it was the best decision for me to start slowly academically, and that gave me a lot of time to explore different interests and different clubs on campus. That is, I think, because I had a lighter academic load, I was able to join the UC Rally Committee. I was able to join the Vietnamese Student Association. So my recommendation for anyone who might be going to college in general, whether it's at Berkeley or someone else, is just like, take it easy your first semester. Like, I think it's really important to transition your first semester, and then after that, like, feel free to load up on academics and get more involved academically. But I don't know, I think because of that, my freshman experience was really great. I had a lot of time to hang out with friends, make new connections, explore the city of Berkeley. And in terms of recommendations for places to study or hang out, I myself haven't been there, but I've always heard people raving about the East Asian Library because it has a very nice view and like natural lighting. So for any of you who may get the chance in the future to visit our libraries when they do reopen, like that's something that I will make sure to visit and try studying at. Another popular place is Moffett Library, which is one of the largest undergraduate libraries in the United States in terms of traffic. I know the nice thing about Moffett Library is that there aren't any books because it's more like an open study space. There's like quiet rooms. There's also like social rooms where you can like work on like coursework with friends. And for me personally, I spent a lot of time just studying in my friends' dorms. And I think that was just nice having that like atmosphere to like collaborate and work on coursework with friends.
All right, thank you, Jimmy. Yeah, I gotta say I've spent many hours in both East Asian and Moffett. Very, very comfortable places to spend a very long time just looking at stuff. Okay, so for our third question, so Jade, do you think you could talk about what was it exactly like coming in as an out-of-state student, maybe?
Yeah, of course. I love to talk about my out-of-state experience because it was just such a fun adventure for me. So for me, I was the only one that came to Cal from my high school, and that was very intimidating at first because a lot of people here, maybe they came to Cal with their high school friends and they have a community right away. And for me, I didn't know anyone, but very luckily I had two random roommates that I instantly became very great friends with. And I also became friends with people in my hall. I think our residential hall do a really good job to connect freshmen together when they first move in. They build a very nice social atmosphere. So when we first moved in, we will have different kinds of icebreaker activities. The RA will gather the people on the floor together and have us do, we have pizza nights, and sometimes they give us face masks before midterms, and we are having like a de-stress session together. So that was a very good opportunity for me to come in right away and start meeting people. And even though I didn't come with anyone from my high school, I was able to make those friends immediately. And that's the first step. It's the people in the residential hall. And going out of the residential hall, we have Calapalooza, which is our club fair. And that is a great place to find people with similar interests. You can join these clubs and you can meet a lot of people with similar interests there. And my high school was kind of on a smaller size, so my graduating class was about 200 people. And coming to Cal, it was a little bit intimidating because the school was so big. But then I realized with the big school comes a lot of diversity. That means no matter what your interest is, you can always find someone with similar interest. And then you can build a community all around that. So I would say coming from out of state maybe is a little scary because you're coming into a new environment, but I think Cal really provides enough support for everyone to find their group and to fit in.
All right, yeah, definitely. Especially if you're living in the residence halls, I would highly recommend investing in some kind of doorstop. I remember my roommates and we actually found some very large rocks on campus to prop the door open. So yeah, it's definitely make sure to go out and meet people on your dorm floor and everything, as well as in your classes and clubs and all that. Okay, so for our fourth question, so Christy, do you think you'd talk about how exactly does study abroad work at Berkeley?
Yes. I know a lot of people who are younger, especially sophomores and juniors right now, were going to study abroad and had to come back, or maybe they were going to study abroad this semester and most programs were canceled. So I'm pretty lucky because I did get to study abroad before, everything kind of went a little crazy, so I can talk about that experience. Something that's really great about going to UC Berkeley is you actually have access to all of the study abroad programs for all of the different UCs. So you can do a study abroad program at UCLA or UC Davis or I don't know, yeah, in UC San Diego, and this opens up a ton of programs for you that honestly, like, it's a little bit overwhelming. And we have different study abroad advisors who can help you kind of look through these programs and figure out what might be best for you. But you do have this incredible network that is just a lot bigger than just our school, so that's really great. We have a couple programs that are also specific to UC Berkeley. That's one of the ones I did. It kind of went along with my major and complemented my major. So I was essentially able to take every single class that I would have taken my sophomore fall on campus, except I took it in London, which was just an incredible experience. So I spent my sophomore fall in London taking these classes. The classes were taught by Berkeley professors, and the credits transferred, automatically. It was essentially the same curriculum. So that was unique to me because it was specific for my program. You could do these other programs that you might have to meet with an advisor and figure out how your credits will transfer. I know of a program specifically, people asked often if you are like a STEM major or an engineering major, is it tough to study abroad? My roommate last year, she is a molecular and cell biology major, and I know there's a program that allows you to do, I think it's all of your physics requirements in one summer, but you can do them in a couple different European countries. So she ended up doing her entire physics requirement, which was physics 7A and 7B, but she did it in Cyprus over the summer, and she was like hanging out on the beach, and like traveling all over Europe during her weekend. So that's a really fun opportunity for someone if they have a little bit more of a heavy course load and they're required to be on campus for most of their semesters. So anyway, there's a ton of different programs. We have advisors that will, help you out. But if you do want to study abroad, coming to a big university like this that's so well connected will really help you figure out how to make that work with your schedule.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking into studying abroad myself. There's plenty of great opportunities available, and as well as scholarships and all sorts of financial resources for that. So just if you're interested in studying abroad, definitely go and check out the study abroad office if you get the opportunity to do that. Okay, so for our fifth question, so we had a question from Ryan who asks, what is the teacher-student relationship usually like at school? Like sort of how do students sort of work on their relationships with professors, that sort of thing. So Jamie, do you think you can get that one?
Yeah, I can answer that. So kind of just like giving advice instead, like I think one of the best ways, and this is like everyone talks about it, but like a lot of people don't do it, is going to office hours. And for those of you who might be unfamiliar with what office hours are, they're like designated times that your professors or your graduate student instructor will have just for students to come in and ask questions either about lecture material or just like ask about like how they're doing. A lot of people like, and I myself can relate, like it's daunting at first to reach out to your professors and go to their office hours. But most of the time, like it's really, really a great way for you to be seen in the class because most likely these professors are gonna have hundreds of students in their class. And office hours is more like intimate and a way for them to talk to you and interact with you. And even if you don't have like a question about course material, you can ask them about the research that they did or their dissertation. Like that's something like, like everyone likes to talk about themselves. And if you give the opportunity for professors to tell you about their research, I can almost guarantee you that their eyes will light up and they'll be so passionate with what they're talking about. But for those of you who might be hesitant about going to office hours, like another great way to develop a relationship with your professor, just so that they know that you're in the class, is like ask questions in class. Like that might sound so basic, but like just think about like the amount of people that ask questions, like sooner or later your professor will like see you and like say like, oh, like this student like is really engaged with the material. That's something that I did is like, if I was like shy to go to office hours, like I always ask questions about the material because like that was really a way for me to be seen in the class. And like, if you want to go beyond that, like you can always like email your professors because like, I don't know, I'm sure a lot of professors are open to connecting with students, but it's just up to you to reach out and make that connection.
Yeah, definitely. Like, just because Berkeley is such a large school, it definitely is very important to sort of have that initiative and reaching out and just working on establishing a working relationship with your professor. I mean, I myself, for example, I was in a class of 2,000 people, and the professor's personal office hours, I saw that they were open. So I went over and he was the only person in the room. So it's kind of crazy. class of 2,000 people. There's only the professor and the office hours. So yeah, I mean, great opportunity if you get the chance to take advantage of it. Okay, so for our next question, this one is for Kenzie. Peyton asked, could you talk a little more about CalTeach? Sort of like, what is the program like? What are you learning? And how rigorous is the program overall?
Of course, I would love to talk more about CalTeach because this program I think is just so wonderful and so phenomenal. And it's just, the great thing about this program is it's hosted by the Graduate School of Education. So I'm getting some of the most new and most relevant research in education applied into my curriculum. So with this program, I've been taught by researchers in education along with teachers from Berkeley. So I've gotten both of those experiences. So I know what I'm getting and what I'm learning is some of the best education techniques out there in the world. It's a great program because by integrating in all this research, the way we learn is a lot of the times you actually can take part in lessons. So in my CalTeach class, I've actually built clay models, and I've done the spaghetti experiment where you try to make a spaghetti tower with a marshmallow on top and try to make it the tallest you can. So I was doing these different curriculums that my students would be doing, and then afterwards we look at it and reflect and kind of see what went well, what we could fix, stuff like that. Another great aspect of this program is you actually do what's called field placements, where you're actually placed in a local Berkeley school and you work with a mentor teacher, teaching lessons and helping around the classroom for like an hour to 2 hours each week. So each class you're placed at a different grade level. So I taught third grade, and then I also taught high school students for a little while in a bio lab class. So that was really awesome because I actually got to apply what I was learning in the classroom to a real live students and see how they interacted with the material that I was learning. And like I said, this program really does prepare you for the future because you are able to get your teaching credential at the end. Once you complete all your CalTeach classes, you can apply to get the credential. And so I can leave this school and go straight into teaching. It's just a wonderful program. I can't hype it up enough because it's trying to fill the gap in science and math education, trying to get great math and science teachers out there. And so I really think what they're trying to do is admirable, and they're doing it in the best way.
Yeah, CalTeach is a really awesome program. And if you have any interest at all, just trying to teach people any sorts of different topic or anything like that, go ahead and check it out. It's also a great way to get involved in one of our amazing graduate schools, the Graduate School of Education School. So yeah. So moving on to our next question. So we had a question from Crystal who asked, could you talk about Berkeley's nature in terms of things like competition and collaboration as well? And we also had a question from Zach who asked how much your work is generally collaborative and group-based. So Jade, do you think you can grab that one?
Yeah. So I first wanted to start with saying that Berkeley is definitely an environment that will encourage collaboration. That is an idea that our professor every semester, almost all of my professors will say that collaboration is important. We don't encourage negative competition here. One great example of that, like Jimmy said before, we have these office hours that professor hosts, which is open for all students, and students can come in, ask the professor questions, and discuss the material from the lecture. So that is a very collaborative environment. Most of the classes I've taken actually have set grade bins. So what that means is that before the semester start, we have a certain score, the grade bins. So if you get above certain score, you'll get an A, certain score, you're a B. So that's not necessarily, you're not necessarily competing against each other. You're just trying to get the grade that you're working towards. So it's possible if everyone get good grades, you'll get an A. I'm not saying that you're gonna get an A in all of your classes. That's not what I'm saying here. You definitely have to work hard towards those grades, but I'm just trying to say that if you work hard, you can definitely earn the grade that you deserve. other than that, we also have a lot of study groups. So we have a great studying resource, which is called the Student Learning Center. It is a group for free tutoring. So you can go into their drop-in sessions and they host review sessions, and they're taught by these tutors that have taken these classes before. So they have some very good advice on how to study for those classes, and they can really answer your questions. So we have all of those amazing resources for you to help you academically and to help everyone succeed and help everyone work towards the grade that they want. In terms of which classes, if classes are more discussion-based or collaborative, I think that depends on the class. I've taken classes that are very much collaborative. For example, I've taken computer science and data science classes where I took a summer computer science class, and the entire course I had to work with one other partner, and then we developed different projects together. So that's a more collaborative type of class. And I guess for my psychology classes, those are more maybe textbook and reading based that involve less collaboration, working in groups, project together. But in that case, we still had a lot of discussions where we would read academic articles and then we'll come together and discuss the materials, our learnings.
Yeah, if you ever need any help with anything, just go ahead and, go to office hours, talk to your classmates. I'm sure there's always at least someone willing to help, Yeah, I'd say the Berkeley community is definitely built more around just supporting each other and just getting through so we can all learn this material together rather than pushing each other down, which I think is a great thing. Okay, so moving on to our next question. So Ryan asked, how do undergraduate students gain research opportunities? So are things like ULab and URAP easily accessible? Christy, you thinking of that one?
Yeah. So something I always say on my tours when I'm giving them on campus is that if you're like giving Berkeley pros and cons, which I think you should do for all colleges that you're looking at applying at, you should kind of write some pros and cons for each one. But at the top of the list for the pros for Berkeley should be research, because we have some of the best undergraduate research programs, and we are, the top public research university. So you're going to have a lot of just amazing opportunities for research here. The kind of entry gates is URAP, which I had mentioned before I participated in. Again, that stands for the Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program. So it's sort of like our own personal Craigslist for research opportunities for Berkeley undergraduates. So at the beginning of every semester, all of these different projects are posted with professors who are looking for undergraduate researchers. Specifically why some people ask, like, you have so many amazing grad schools, like, why aren't they just having the grad students, do all this work? The grad students usually will require some sort of payment for their work, and a lot of undergraduates, research on sort of a volunteer basis just to gain experience. So when you're sort of budgeting for a project, it actually makes sense to bring a lot of undergraduate researchers in. So we do have, a lot of undergrads who will kind of work in these, and then in return we get experience and we get these amazing stories to talk about when we have job interviews and internship interviews. My research experience has definitely helped me get some of the amazing internship opportunities I've had. So, really a resume builder. But anyway, you'll go on to URAP at the beginning of the semester. All the projects are posted. You'll read about the different sort of opportunities. You can filter them by, discipline and subject. You'll learn if there's any pre-requirements. Sometimes they'll want you to know some sort of programming language or have done a certain amount of lower division classes. Although I have close friends who've been researching since their second semester freshman year. I have a friend who got a job in a beetle laboratory. He's an environmental studies major during the second half of his freshman year. So he was working in that beetle lab and then ended up staying there over the summer also. So that's definitely possible. So URAP, again, open to all undergraduate students, but anyone can go look at it. So if you want to go and see some of the research opportunities we have available, you should go check it out. You can just go Google Berkeley Undergraduate Research Apprenticeship Program, see everything. People think, ooh, lab science for research, but actually the most available opportunities are normally in the anthropology department. We have a huge anthropology research department. I ended up doing my research in the Haas School of Business, even though I'm a political economy student. So I was helping a professor doing some background research for a book that he's writing, which again sounds really impressive, and I get to talk about that in interviews and things like that. So research can really be a stepping stone into a career. So that's the formal research program. Once you kind of like get your foot in the door, you can go a lot of different ways. Sometimes there's like a word of mouth culture where I have another friend who, got into a lab because one of his teammates on the Ultimate Frisbee team had worked in that lab and told him about it and then recommended him. Sometimes you'll work with a professor and you'll be talking about things you're interested in and your work, and they'll be like, oh, I was looking for somebody. That happened to me last semester. I was talking about some of the research I was doing in the university archives for the 150 Years of Women at Berkeley research I was conducting. I was really excited, and I was telling my professor about that, and he was actually looking for a research assistant to help him do some archival research. And since I had experience with that, he's like, hey, like, you want to, come on, this would be a fully paid position, we'll work a couple, 5-10 hours a week. So I'll be starting that at some point when the libraries open back up. So that was a bit of a bummer, but that's just an example of some of the more informal processes that you can, find to get research. But definitely URAP is one of the big, stepping stones in the door. And then I think Jade, right, you had experience with ULab. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Christy already gave us a pretty good overview of a lot of the resource we have here. So I would just kind of talk about ULab, which is kind of my introduction to research. When I first came here in my freshman year, it was something I never thought I would be involved with, because getting research the first semester of college was kind of very, sounds very scary. But a very cool thing about ULab is that we got the complete freedom to determine what we want our topic to be. So what we did is I was in a group with 5 other undergraduate students led by one upperclassman mentor who kind of had more experience in research. And then we did literature review together. So we went through all the academic journals in the field, and we kind of figured out where are the gaps and what we want to focus our research on. So we were able to determine our topic, which was the effect of different gender on the perception of stress. So that was our topic. And then we went into designing the experiment. We were able to conduct the experiment, and then we ended up writing a paper, and we presented that to the psychology professors here at Berkeley. And then that whole experience just gave me a very good idea and hands-on experience as well on how the whole research process works. And I think that's a very important introduction to research, and it really helped me in the future when I go into more in-depth research, more academic research in the field. I know what the process would look like, and it helped me gain very good introductory experience.
Yeah, that's so cool, Jade. And I just wanted to just add on, so URAP is like the big overarching kind of most holistic research program we have, but there are smaller kind of research groups that have their own separate applications, like ULab that Jade worked with. The linguistics department has our own research program called LRAP, so linguistic students can apply to that. I know the College of Natural Resources, our environmental sciences school, has their own research program on top of URAP, which has its own opportunities in the field. So there's a lot of programs, a lot of opportunities on the Berkeley campus.
All right, yeah, thank you guys so much for talking about your research experiences. I mean, Berkeley is one of the top research institutions in the entire world, so it'd be a real shame if we didn't take advantage of all those different resources available to us like that. There's always professors, grad students, all sorts of different people just looking for assistance with their own projects, or if you want to get started with your own research, we have plenty of resources for that as well. So you should have just noticed on your screen a poll pop up asking, what exactly are you interested in studying? Looks like we have a significant amount of people interested in studying social sciences and the arts and humanities. Good amount of physical sciences as well, engineers, chemistry. Got a healthy mix of everyone. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Berkeley has great programs in all those sorts of different areas. So hope we can be of use to you today. If you have any specific questions about those areas, don't be shy. Go ahead and ask them in the chat, and someone will get back to you about an answer to that question. Okay, so moving on to our next question. So we had a question from Ryan who asked, what has been one of your favorite classes at UC Berkeley so far? What sort of made that class unique in a way? Kenzie, do you think you can grab that one?
Yes, of course. So my class would actually be a really kind of basic class called, I took environmental biology. Going in expecting it to be very like science, STEM kind of field, doing worksheets, solving problems, stuff like that, you know, being called environmental biology. But that was not what I got at all. I got a professor who really, really wanted to interact with his students and make it a very collaborative class environment. I remember one lesson, I don't remember exactly why, but he ended up chucking apples into the audience at everyone. So we got a little snack. I think he was talking about agriculture in that unit. And so what better way than for all of us to like see agriculture up and close in front of us. But this class was really phenomenal because of my professor. He, like I said, really wanted it to be hands-on and collaborative, and really the students kind of pushed the conversation. So he would like lecture. This was like a 200-person class. He would lecture for like 15 minutes and then call on people in the audience, and we'd bounce around ideas. He made it a little more philosophy kind of, rather than just these are the facts. So we worked together to like decide definitions for different terms. Like we had a argument, a class-wide debate about what really defines a life form. Like a bee is a life form, but what about a beehive? And that was our class discussion. It was kind of exciting. Another one of his assignments was a microcosm assignment where he basically, you got anything, any living thing, put it inside of a container, and just for the entire semester watched what happened and kept a diary. So instead of a final, this is what we had to do. And it was really cool because it was to teach us about like, even when you don't expect there to be life. So as you like watch, let's say an apple in your microcosm die, new like microorganisms would appear, like a white fungus. And it was kind of, he wanted to show us how life comes out of other life. Just one last fun thing that we got to do was he had what he called field trip assignments, where you had to do one of these a semester, and he had like 10 different options. One of them being going kayaking in the bay with him. Another was a hike along Strawberry Creek with our professor. So there was like 10 of us, and you would just like have chit chat, learn about each other's lives. He told me about his commute to Berkeley every day and how he's been feeling about the political climate. It was just incredible because I started off with this 200-person class, but I really felt like I got to know my professor as a person and different people as like people. It was just a great experience overall. So you never know what to expect with those titles of classes. So definitely talk to your fellow students because they'll have that hands-on experience, because environmental biology was not what I was expecting, and I'm so grateful for that.
Actually, I am signed up in that class for this semester, so thank you for the introduction. I'm looking forward to seeing how he's adapting to the current situation. But yeah, Professor had a great first lecture, so thank you, Kenzie. So moving on to our next question. So we had a question from Brian who asked, is there anything you wish you knew before you had gone to UC Berkeley? Jimmy, do you think of that one?
Yeah, I can answer that. Of course, there's like a bunch of things I wish I knew before going to Berkeley, but I think if there's something I could tell my past self, it's that like, just like coming in, like even before I made a decision of what school to go to, I've heard all the bad things about Berkeley. Like I heard all the stigmas, all like, oh yeah, like you're gonna like stress out, like it's gonna be so hard, it's so competitive. And honestly, like I wish I had told myself to just take all that bad energy with a grain of salt, because I think like that hearing all those bad things about Berkeley is what like almost kind of just gave me a bad perception of Berkeley. And I think it wasn't until I sought out those stories and I sought out those experiences from actual students who were going to the school that is when I began having a more positive viewpoint of Berkeley, and when I began seeing myself at Berkeley, even before stepping onto campus. So like my advice for everyone is like just recognize like the narrative that you will hear. If you hear Berkeley is like, you'll probably hear about like the worst experiences that students have had, or like the really, 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 really good experiences. But oftentimes you won't hear like a regular student perspective. And I actually like sought out those regular student stories from my own friends who were going to Berkeley. And they were the ones that gave me like a really genuine viewpoint of Berkeley. And that's what ultimately made me go to Berkeley. So yeah, summary, like, yes, like it is understandable to have a lot of concerns, but, you know, take it with a grain of salt and like create your own story or your own image of what a school is.
Yeah, definitely. Other people's opinions are definitely a good way to sort of get a gauge of how exactly the school is going to be, but you're really not going to know until you're actually here yourself, and you can sort of just get a general sense of how it will suit yourself, because everyone's different, everyone has different standards, different opinions. So make sure to keep that in mind. Okay, so moving on to our next question. How is the food at Berkeley like? Christy, do you think you can grab that one?
Yeah, so I can break this question down into like the campus food, like dining hall food specifically, and then just like the food culture around Berkeley. So for the dining hall food, I kind of came across, with my experience, like it's normal dining hall food. It's what you're going to find at like 90% of the colleges out there. I think a lot of like tour guides at colleges will talk about like, oh, we have the best dining hall food, like blah, blah, blah. There are like 3 companies that cater dining hall food across the entire United States. So every single school seriously like has pretty much the same food. They have like one of these 3 companies. So like keep that in mind when you're, figuring out like college dining hall food. And especially on the West Coast, like it's almost always like the same company. So it's like standard dining hall food. It's fine. It's pretty good. Like you'll, eat it as long as you live on campus. For some students, they'll stay on campus longer than others. You can get an off-campus dining hall plan if you want. My roommate last year had that, so she ate in the dining halls even though she lived in an off-campus apartment. I chose to move into an off-campus apartment my sophomore year, so I started cooking for myself, which I really like. I just like cooking and having kind of control over, exactly what goes into my food. And then that's where I come to the other part of Berkeley food culture, which is like the surrounding city. Berkeley like is a huge foodie town, and this is kind of a reputation that not a lot of like high school students know about when they're looking at Berkeley. But we have Michelin star restaurants here. We have some of like the most incredible grocery stores. Berkeley was home to the slow food movement in the 70s, which was the kind of movement that started the idea of like farm to table farmers markets. The first farmers market in the entire United States was like in Berkeley, and we still have these incredible farmers markets many days a week. Actually, there's one almost every day a week if you go to different areas. So I'll go to like the Thursday downtown farmers market and get my produce. Super affordable. We have a lot of amazing grocery stores that are farm to table, locally owned. A favorite that comes to mind is Berkeley Bowl. Almost every Berkeley student knows about Berkeley Bowl. You go there, you can get avocados for like 40 cents. It's incredible, especially as a Washington raised student getting my produce for that price. And then we just have an incredible like restaurant culture as well. I just said we have Michelin star restaurants, but we have a ton of really good food that caters to students around here, really affordable. I'd say especially kind of like our Asian food culture is really top notch. Like we're in San Francisco, we're in the Bay, have access to a lot of, amazing different like culture, and also a lot of amazing seafood if you're that kind of person. So there's tons of great Thai food places. There's this udon place that's amazing. There's, a couple great sushi places around. So anyway, I'll stop gushing right now, but the food culture in the city of Berkeley is just like incredible.
Yeah, I didn't eat lunch yet, so I'm very hungry right now, but thank you, Christy. Yeah, I'd highly agree with everything she just said there. And might add, it's very cheap. They're very suited towards the college student market. So yeah, once you're here, make sure to check out the amazing food opportunities available. Okay, so moving on to our next question. So we had a question from Zach who asked, how common are on-campus jobs? And a question from Melissa who asked, is it difficult to find employment as a first-year student? So Jade, do you think you can answer that one?
Yeah, I can answer that one for sure. So what we're doing right now, Campus Ambassadors, it is an on-campus job. It's very cool and on-campus job, in my opinion. We get to share with you all the wonderful things we learn at Cal. And I would say that I have another on-campus job. I work as a lifeguard for the pools here at Berkeley. And I would say there's a lot of on-campus jobs from when we had open campus. So we had jobs in the library and jobs in the residential hall, jobs in the dining hall. And it is very easy to apply to these jobs. And some of them work very nicely with work study programs. So you can just go on the website, apply to all, again, have a list of all these jobs and apply to these jobs. And it is definitely, you can definitely apply to these jobs as a first year. They don't really choose in that regard, as long as you're qualified for the job. I would say I really love working on campus because back when we had in person, it is very convenient because I can just go to my job during my classes. If I have a gap in my schedule, I can just go lifeguard at the pool, and then afterwards I can just go straight back to class. And on-campus jobs, they are very aware that we're students and we have a lot of coursework and other involvements that we have to take responsibilities of. So they're pretty flexible with the scheduling. For example, our campus ambassador job, we had to choose our own availability depending on our class. And if there is a midterm, a test coming up, and you're really stressed and you are thinking about finding cover for your shift, it is very relatively easy to do that as well. And supervisors are all super understanding of it. As long as you give a little bit of a notice ahead, they will usually accommodate for that.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jade. Yeah, especially this job, I'd highly recommend. If you're interested in doing it, apply. We're always looking for new people, new experiences, all sorts of perspectives. And yeah. So there should be a poll popping up on your screen right now, just asking where you're joining us from. Berkeley has students from all over the country, all over California, all across the world. So we can just sort of get an idea of who's watching us today. See a lot of people just throughout California, a couple people from Central Time Zone and the East Coast. All right. Awesome. Cool. All right. So let's move on to our next question. So we had a question from Ryan who asked us, what are some of your favorite Berkeley traditions? And a person who also asked, what are some of your most memorable Berkeley traditions? So Jimmy, do you think you could grab that one, please?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I'm part of the UC Rally Committee, which is our spirit group on campus. So I have a ton of stories, experiences, and a lot of traditions that I really hold true. But I just like pointing out my favorite is definitely the big game against Stanford. For those of you, I saw there were some people from Southern California. You might be familiar with like the UCLA and USC rivalry. So here at Berkeley, we also have a rivalry with Stanford. And the reason why like the big game in general is my favorite tradition is because I feel like that's really when our campus spirit and like our campus energy like is at its peak in the year. Something that is so memorable, that was so funny, is I remember after we had won against Stanford and we had like an axe rally, I remember this one girl, she was walking by and she was like, who cares? And her friend was like, dude, literally everyone cares. Like, it's like the biggest like accomplishment. It's like the biggest event that we have during the year for Cal Spirit. And I just remember hearing that and like, I was just laughing. And some other memorable things is like during homecoming and the big game, the rally committee will also like light up the school in blue and gold. You might see pictures of like Sather Gate with like Christmas lights in blue and gold. You might see some of our iconic landmarks in blue and gold. And like that was memorable for me because I remember during one of the nights during the big game, me and my friends, we just walked onto campus and we just like chilled on like Merle Glade, just looking at the lights and taking pictures. And it was just really fun because like everything was just so warm and like spirit was high and the campus was just so beautiful. So yeah, there's a lot of traditions I can go to, but like the big game against Stanford and just like the week leading up to it and like the events after it, like those are like something that I'll always remember.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Jimmy. Yeah, I'd have to say big game week, Cal Spirit goes all out about just decorating our campus, showing how much we love our school, everything. It really is amazing. And I hope that you all eventually get the chance to come back on campus and go and check that out. All right, so moving on to our next question. So we had a question for me actually, who asked, from Zach, who asked, what can you tell me about your experience as a computer science student, as well as any specific strengths or weaknesses of the department? So about my specific experience. So I'd say Berkeley CS is definitely a very great learning experience. They really throw some high level topics at you compared to other schools when you're first starting off. There's lots of big projects, but they do provide extensive support resources for you to succeed. There's all sorts of different office hours, tutoring, graduate student instructors, all sorts of student clubs and groups that also help with tutoring, all sorts of different things that are here to support you. I'd say for the when you're starting off, there definitely is a leaning towards software-based positions or sort of work, I'd say. But there definitely is also work on hardware, so circuits and all sorts of those different things as well. Um, I'd say in terms of strengths of the department is, of course, is very rigorous. It's a very well-renowned department. It's you definitely get plenty of great research opportunities in CS. I'd say Berkeley CS is definitely one of the top programs in the world. In terms of disadvantages, I'd have to say is that it is definitely competitive to get into the program. If you apply to the EECS major, that's electrical engineering and computer science, then one of the things that can happen is, you know, it is competitive. It is very difficult to get into that specific program, but once you're in, you're in. And I'd say that's one of the good things about it. If you're doing it through the letters in science, computer science major route, one of the requirements is that you have to get a 3.3 GPA across 3 different classes, which is definitely doable, but it can be a challenge. So that's probably one of the main disadvantages I would say, is that it is definitely not an easy task to get in, but it is doable. But yeah, they definitely do prepare you very well for either working in the workforce, doing research, or just getting all sorts of internships at major tech companies at nearby Silicon Valley. So yeah. And thank you for that question. So moving on to our next question. So we had a question just asking, how would you describe Berkeley in 5 words? And actually, since we do have 5 people, do you think, can we have each person just share 1 word individually?
My 1 word would be world changing.
I chose evolving because I feel like the school is evolving with the world, but I'm also evolving with the school, and I'm growing to a new person. Just with COVID going on, just want to bring that up real quick. We're doing some of the top COVID research here on campus. I actually had a friend participating in a lab doing COVID research. So we're evolving with the times, and it's phenomenal.
I said vibrant. Any average Friday night on campus, you're probably gonna have like 6 things you want to do, and you have to choose. There's always something going on. There's always people, you know, wanting to hang out and like go to a concert or a talk or a comedy show. It's a very vibrant campus.
Yeah, and I chose the word inclusive because I think Cal really wants to help everyone succeed. So we have just very quick mention of all the resources we have here. We have Student Development Center for transfer students, veteran students, student parents. We have all of those amazing resources. We want to make sure everyone's included in this journey to do well.
I myself, I think I would say probably active. Just, I'd say everyone here is just working towards, or they want to work towards changing the world, or just having a great college experience, all sorts of different things. All right, so moving on to our final question of the day. So how did you guys know that Cal was the right place for you, the right choice? So in a way, sort of what exactly is your Berkeley story? What convinced you that this is the place you wanted to go for the next 4 years? And actually, do you think, Jade, do you think you'd start us off, please?
Yeah, I can start us off today with that question. So I will be very honest here and say that when I was making a college decision, I did not do a lot of research. It was not 100% informed decision. I was just on the East Coast and I said, I want to go to the West Coast. I had a tour of Berkeley. I like the campus. I like the weather. I was like, let's go there. That's where we're going to go. So that was also Berkeley was my dream college too. So I got here and it was, like I said before, it was a little intimidating at first because I was the only one here from my high school. I didn't know anyone here. But I remember one of the first classes I went to, a physics lecture. It was this PhD professor, you know, teaching physics, and he really reminded me of my high school physics teacher, like the way he talked and the way, you know, he assigned homework and everything. So it felt very familiar, and I decided I want to email him. So I sent him an email saying, hey, you remind me of my, you know, high school physics teacher, who's my favorite teacher in high school. I'm very excited to learn your class, just to say hi. And he responded. I was very surprised that he responded. He said, thank you very much. And he said, very excited to have you in my class. That was very surprising to me because I didn't expect in this big environment, a professor would care enough to respond to a little freshman's email. And that was not the only meaningful interaction I had with professors here at Cal. I took personality psychology last semester, and the Professor Oliver John is the creator of a personality test that is very commonly used in psychology research. So he is like this big figure in the psychology field. And in lecture, he was almost pleading for us to come to his office hours because he's very bored and he wants to hear our future plans and he wants to hear what we think about the class. And I think that just goes into this bigger narrative of that Cal really cares, from the professors and GSIs that really care about our academics and that really cares about our future career plans, to these other students that really care about their field. They're really passionate about their field and they care about making a positive difference in this world. And also we have all of these student resources that really care, that really want to make sure everyone have the equal opportunities to do well, to have a happy time at Cal, to learn and grow. So I think that is, maybe coming to Cal was not a very informed decision, but I think I definitely made a decision to stay at Cal because I think it provides me with all of the resources that I need to succeed, and it makes me feel at home here.
I can go next. For me, I'll keep it really brief because in one of my previous questions, I kind of went into my own Berkeley story, but just to answer Ryan, like the moment that convinced me that Berkeley was the school for me, I remember like I was hanging out with one of my friends who was a student at Berkeley, and she is still a student at Berkeley, and it was like raining, so we just got ice cream and we just ate in the car and we just talked. And then when I asked her about her Berkeley story, because I was deciding what school to go at the time, so it was like after decisions, and she was just telling me like how Berkeley opened her eyes for the to the world, and like how inspired she was to hear from all these different like world-renowned professors, and like just in general what a great time she was having. And I remember like the whole time she was sharing her story, I just felt like really warm, and like I felt really happy, and I started seeing myself at Berkeley through her story. And I think like to this day, like the reason why I chose Berkeley was because of her, because I heard her story. And like I remember she told me how like eventually she wants to, after she graduates from Berkeley, she wants to come back and work in our community. And like that's just something that was so inspiring to me and something that I want to do after I graduate from Berkeley. And because of that, like I can proudly call Berkeley home for the next 4 years. And like that's an advice that I would want to share with everyone else, is like regardless of whether or not you choose Berkeley, like choose a school that you can proudly call home for the next 4 years or however long your college career will be.
All right, I can go next. So unlike Jade, I did a ridiculous amount of research in the college process. I also graduated from a very small school. There's about 30 people in my graduating class, and I knew like I was done with that. Like I wanted to go to a big school. I was looking at a bunch of bigger schools all throughout the United States. And then the other thing is like I'm a pretty nerdy person. I really like school. I like learning, so I wanted to go somewhere that would really push me academically. So this left me with kind of like a handful of colleges all over the U.S. Like University of Washington, Berkeley, obviously, UCLA, UMich, there's a couple other like big, schools that will kind of fit that bill. And then what really set Berkeley apart for me and like really like just sold me was the actual location of our campus. So in my opinion, a lot of these kind of like bigger prestigious research universities are similar in sort of the opportunities, and they have a lot of spirit. There's a lot of cool stuff. They're all great schools. But really what set Berkeley apart from me is that it is so close to San Francisco, to kind of Silicon Valley. There's so many internship and job opportunities, but at the same time, we are a really like, we have a lot of like natural beauty around the area. So I grew up, hiking, skiing, backpacking. I'm a real outdoorsy girl. I love, like the natural areas. We're right next to this beautiful regional park, Tilden Park. I'll go camping with my friends, backpacking, hiking. We're really close to Yosemite, Tahoe. So I'm able to kind of keep doing these sort sort of outdoor recreation instead of being right in the heart of a city like some of the schools I was looking at. But at the same time, I can live in my Berkeley apartment, commute to San Francisco for an internship. I can go there for an interview. It's really 20 minutes to the airport. You can fly internationally, so it's a super unique location, and like it's just a great place to live and be a young person.
All right, I guess it means it's my turn. Berkeley, at first I didn't particularly really want to go to UC Berkeley. It wasn't based on anything about the school other than location, because like I said, originally I'm from San Francisco, so I thought college was my opportunity to get away from my parents and go far out throughout the US. But when I took a closer look at Berkeley, I knew I just couldn't sign it off based of just location. The academic rigor, having like Nobel laureates, teaching classes, and doing world-class research, I couldn't look away from that. But also the community here, like we've hit on many times, it's such a collaborative school. And I have to say, now that I go here, it's lived up to that, what I learned when researching the school. And I'm so glad I didn't let the location just let me decide where to go, because I've found my independence in so many other ways, even though I'm kind of close to my hometown of San Francisco. This school, and brings so many opportunities. Like I said earlier, about evolving, I feel like as a person, I've only been here 2 years, but I've evolved so much. And because the opportunities don't only stretch in academics, but also in our clubs and extracurriculars. Like I brought up before, I'm in superb comedy. I never saw myself getting involved in the comedy sector, thinking about doing stand-up and that. I never saw myself interacting with celebrities, but literally last night, I was having a conversation with Luke Knoll, who was on SNL, asking him how he got involved in comedy and like how he pursued that as a career. And I never saw, when you think Berkeley, a lot of the time you think academic rigor, but I want to say the opportunities here are just phenomenal. Like Christy brought up, we're surrounded by nature. And so for cow climbing, there's a park called Indian Rock, like 20 minutes away from here, where you can actually go bouldering outdoors. It's great. It's phenomenal. So just, there's so much the school has to offer, and I've gotten to taste so many and partake in so many of these different aspects. And because of that, I'm never, ever going to transfer from Berkeley, and it will be so hard to leave in 2 years.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for just sharing your Berkeley stories. I think those are incredible, and I hope that the people watching us today will also eventually get their own Berkeley story eventually. So before we officially end, I just wanted to provide you all with a quick couple resources on how you can all contact us. So first off, follow us on social media at Visit UC Berkeley. If you have any more questions, then go ahead and send an email over to tour@berkeley.edu, and a student ambassador will get back to you to answer that question. In addition, make sure to go and check out the Bear Talk blog for any additional perspectives you might, if you're looking for any additional student perspectives, at beartalk.berkeley.edu. In addition, if you happen to miss anything or you want to find out even more about Berkeley, then go ahead and check out one of our recorded virtual panels available on our YouTube channel at Visit UC Berkeley. There are also other recordings of our regular virtual visits and engineering visits, so make sure you check those out. So make sure to go and also check out the Berkeley COVID-19 Fall 2020 resources to see how Berkeley is responding to COVID-19 at coronavirus.berkeley.edu. And of course, we are celebrating 150 women at Cal. So make sure to check out 150w.berkeley.edu, because we are celebrating that women have been able to go to our campus for so long, and that's such a great thing. And also make sure, if you're interested in checking out specific information about admissions, then go ahead and check out admissions.berkeley.edu/visit. And if you're, as I said, if you're interested in virtual visits or engineering visits, go ahead and go to our website at visit.berkeley.edu. Thank you all so very much for watching us today. And I just like to end it with a quick Go Bears on 1, 2, and 3. Go Bears!
Bears!
And thank you for joining us today, everyone.